A simple vista, The Witness parece solo un juego de puzzles sorprendente y muy bien hecho, pero hay un aura de misterio que rodea la isla que es lo que nos motiva a completar esos puzzles. Descubrir todo lo que allí se esconde no es una tarea fácil, al igual que ocurre con la mente brillante de su creador, así que hemos querido aprovechar la ocasión e intentar comprender cómo funciona, preguntándole directamente a él. ¡Vamos allá! Jonathan Blow es una persona impredecible, misteriosa, reflexiva y difícil de comprender. No es ninguna casualidad que sus juegos sean exactamente de esa manera, y muy especialmente The Witness, un juego en el que el diálogo del autor con el jugador está muy presente durante todo el juego. Precisamente por su naturaleza incomprensible, hemos querido preguntarle a Jonathan por el juego y por su relación con el feedback del público, y la primera pregunta estaba clara. ¿Cómo funciona The Witness?
The way the game is set up is that hopefully people can engage with it as much as they find interesting, you know? So like if they're not that interested in what's in the audio recordings, they listen to a few of them, they get the basic idea, they're like, I'm just gonna go do the puzzles, they could do that, right? If they wanna do every puzzle and find every hidden corner of the world, they could do that. If they don't want to, they don't have to, right? And so the game is designed to let you have different levels of deepness of engagement, both in the gameplay and the theme and all that. So what the game's trying to do is, it doesn't force you to do that, but if you want to do that, if you're interested and you want to put that in, then my contract with the player is that I better have made it interesting enough, right? If you put in that effort and there's nothing there and it's stupid, then you were let down by the game, right? So I have to make sure I'm giving you the impression that you could put that kind of attention. And so when you do that, the game has to make it worth your time, right? Hopefully.
Did you read the comments what people thought about the game?
For The Witness, no, I didn't. Yeah.
Is there any particular reason you didn't?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why I didn't. So I did that a lot with my last game, and I didn't really like the experience. Part of it is just that if you work hard on something for years, you're very close to the thing and you know all the details, you care a lot about it. And somebody on the internet who played your game, let's say even if they like the game and they played it all the way through, they've played it, I mean, well, if it's a smaller game like Braid, just 5 to 6 hours, but something like The Witness, maybe 20 to 40 hours, that's still a tiny amount of the time that I've spent with the game, right? And so, it's just, comments just come across as very rough and coarse, and a lot of times the decisions that I make when I design things, I know they're not the obvious decision that people would think is like the most right thing or whatever. Like I think it's the most right thing, but I think that for very subtle reasons that have to do with a lot of different aspects about the game and how they relate to each other. It's a very complex decision, right? And you know, someone commenting about your game doesn't really know most of that and doesn't think about it, and you couldn't expect them to be an expert in thinking about it because it would take thousands of hours of thinking about the game to be that expert. So I just didn't, you know, when The Witness was done, I didn't feel the need to really read feedback about it because I knew it was good. I was very happy with what we'd made. But part of what we had made, you know, gives people freedom. It's not a linear game. It gives you choices about where to go and what to do. And when you give people freedom, part of what you're giving them is freedom to have a bad experience, right? Because, or hopefully not totally bad, but not the most perfect optimal experience, because if you're trying to force people to have the perfect experience, you're going to be controlling what they do all the time or controlling what the game shows them. And this game was not about that. And so part of what we were doing like was giving people freedom to be confused or go the wrong way, or just by accident. Like, I could have gone left here or gone right, and if I'd gone right, I would have had a happier experience, but I went left and it was a little bit not as good. That's just part of the design. And so there's not, like, if I go on the internet and read someone saying, oh, I went left here and I didn't know what to do and I was confused, it's like, okay, yeah, but I knew that making the game.
Antes de The Witness, John se convirtió en un gurú del panorama indie con su primer juego, Braid, pero su experiencia personal con el público no fue precisamente buena. Después de explicarnos por qué decidió no leer nada sobre The Witness, le pedimos que nos cuente cómo ocurrió con su primer juego y si tenía miedo de que le ocurriese lo mismo con el segundo.
In the Braid time, the thing that I was frustrated about, it wasn't like, you know, random gamers commenting on the game or anything, right? It was like people who were on the internet saying, I'm the smart person who can tell you what this game means, and here is what it means. And I was like, that's not really, you know, it's not really, you're missing a lot of stuff there, but it's making me mad because you're telling other people what this thing is. And part of the reason I was a little bit, I mean, it was my first big game in a long time, so there's that. But also, it was very, Braid was kind of trying to be an example of like, hey, look, you can make a game that's not ashamed of being art. And I was just hoping that that part came across clearly. And I was just worried that all these people saying weird things about the game would ruin the game and people wouldn't see that. Like a lot of people were talking about the story and stuff as though that was the main part of the game, but there's all this other stuff in the game that's actually more important. But in reality, I didn't need to worry. Like, that didn't really happen. Like, a lot of these things people were saying were topical for like a week. You know how the internet is, like people say stuff and then it changes to some other discussion. And that's basically what happened with that game as well. I mean, certainly the game has survived and it's something that people are interested in and think well of over time. But what they think now is, I think, not that much shaped by what people said about it in the first couple weeks, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, since I've seen that happen, I didn't feel so worried about it this time.
How do you manage to keep motivated to keep making games, even if it's this happened with the people on the audience?
Well, I mean, if you know you've made something good, then that's okay, right? Even if you're a little bit distraught by the discussion around it, right? And especially these days, again, that's just how the internet's kind of just a negative place where you're not going to read things that make you happy. And so that was maybe just the early version of that. So, I mean, I just keep it separate, right? When I'm making the game, I'm seeing the game and I'm focusing on that game and what it needs to be good. And that's very separate from a reaction or any discussion. Are we already running out of time?
I hope not.
Okay, he's standing there.
Después de su mala experiencia con el lanzamiento de Braid, de la decisión de no leer nada sobre The Witness y de conocer mejor su relación con las opiniones furtivas de internet, solo nos quedaba hacer la pregunta del millón. ¿Cree Jonathan Blow que la gente ha entendido The Witness?
You know, like a game like The Witness is really, even Braid was pretty complicated, but The Witness is like really complicated. There's a lot of stuff in it, and so, you know, artistic decisions like that happen at many levels. Some of them are very obvious and people can see them. Some of them are very subtle and almost nobody you would expect to notice that a decision was made there, you know. And there's a whole, between that, there's a whole spectrum of sizes of decision. And so I just expect any individual person who comes to the game will see some of those things and they won't see others of them. Almost nobody is going to see everything. I don't even know how that's possible because we talk about so many things when we make a game. So I just, you know, everybody's going to have their own view of it, and that's just how it is, and that's okay. And so with something as complicated as The Witness, it would be weird to expect people to understand it all the way. And so, especially because it's subtle about some things, you know, it's not really an obvious story, like the ideas are tucked away in the background. And so when you do that, like, yeah, you know that people are gonna have the experience that they have, and you have to be okay, right?